Greetings, people. My name is Dr. Martin Glynn, aka Doc Martin, aka criminologist, writer, dramatist, children's author, and a data storyteller. This JCast is brought to you by Algorithm. Data Storytelling Lab is produced by Natural and Secret. So, welcome to Lirix from Lockdown, a new straight-talking, opinion-focused podcast series aimed at anyone wanting a no-nonsense, get straight to the point, issue-centered approach, responding to the important issues of today. So, today's topic is about race and COVID-19. So, this opinion piece has little to offer the current research on COVID-19 and has everything to do with the ongoing struggle for racial recognition within parts of the British society that needs to look at its own, what I call selective amnesia when looking at its own history. Criminal justice system, school exclusions of black boys, the recent Windrush scandal, black on black violence, poor representation in film and TV, and the Black Lives Matter and decolonization of higher education campaigns will attest that black life for many of us in this country is an ongoing social and cultural pandemic that's been driven and sustained since black people arrived in the UK as far back as 55 BC, yes, 55 BC, when the Romans were stationed in Hull. Now, to me, COVID-19 is merely another damaging social determinant of health that has befallen black communities at this time, highlighted by the latest revelations of the disproportionate deaths of many black people in the NHS and in the community. Now, speaking as a father, grandfather, and lately a grandfather, I'm disheartened at knowing that all the generations I'm connected to will inherit yet another layer of false hope and despair to reflect on in their lives. Knowing that many of their elders have now gone, it's a crying shame. And as this devastating impact of the disproportionate representation of BAME deaths are felt, sections of our society will no doubt avert its gaze from the wider social determinants that have blighted the lives of black people in the UK throughout history. So it's nothing new. Any researcher looking at race and public health issues should know about sickle cell, lupus, prostate cancer, diabetes and high blood pressure. All affect black people disproportionately. Similarly, the criminal justice system. Any researcher that's involved in researching crime should know that racial disparities operate at every stage of the criminal justice system. And of course, any progressive social historian knows that the black involvement in shaping British society has always been excluded, marginalised and airbrushed out of every tier of British life, notwithstanding the advent of so-called Black History Month. So whilst COVID-19 rages through the UK, I'm asking myself a question. Where are the stories of this global pandemic coming from Africa, South Asia, prison, poor black communities in North America and the Caribbean, the favelas of Brazil, the indigenous communities across the globe? Where's their stories? Ironically though, just a few weeks ago, many criminals were being deported back to Jamaica, Muslims were still seen as a suspect community, young black people were still being vilified by the press, whilst the big talking point of the day was the Stormzy and Wiley grime beef, and Channel 4 continued to make us squirm and chuckle at the big nasty show. What happens now? The press plasters the faces of heroic black people from the community who have died saving lives in the NHS, plastered them all across our screens. Yet, only a few months ago, many people wanted to curb immigration, whilst Brexit hastened to return to the good old days of Britannia ruling the waves. So if black history shows us anything and repeats itself, then differential racialization such as black death during COVID-19 will slip out of the public consciousness and quickly be forgotten. And let us not forget, many lives across the board have been lost, families have been left devastated, communities have been ripped apart, whilst many, many children are now without parents and elders. However, the voices and stories associated with the traumas that have befallen on black communities at this time are to be found and located within black cultural expression. Music, theatre, visual arts, dance, literature, spoken word, etc. The histories of slavery, colonisation, civil and human rights struggles were told through the arts and political movements such as negritude, the Niagara movement, the Harlem Renaissance, and the black arts movements in the US and UK. So for me, rather than trundle out all of the moral barricades at this moment in time, gasping in shock and horror at the racial disparities of COVID-19, it may be time to look back at key moments in black history, which may answer some of the questions being posed. It is also important to recognise that those who are currently in charge of the so-called mainstream narrative are misinforming and misguiding the public by using this moment to deflect from some of the wider critical questions associated with these people who are poor, who have limited access to technology, who are socially marginalised and are located in vulnerable areas that are significantly more impacted by COVID-19, of which the black communities I have referred to are merely a fragment. So, maybe a revision of the history of COVID-19, written by artists, where words such as unfortunate, marginalised and disaffected could be replaced with a lexicon such as resilient, heroic and courageous, as a way of validating the humanity of black people. And we could bring this and push it to the fore. It is therefore, as Hamlet said, to be or not to be, that is the question. Or is it the African saying, I am because we are because I am? Is that a more appropriate maxim that validates the black community's worth as human beings at the time of COVID-19? So that's the end. And remember, let us speak truth to history. Dr. Martin Glynn, aka Doc Martin, signing off.